Saying goodbye to someone you love is miserable. For centuries, poets handled this reality by leaning into the melodrama, writing verses drenched in heavy tears, broken hearts, and dramatic sobbing. In 1611, the English writer John Donne faced exactly this scenario. He was preparing to cross the English Channel for a diplomatic mission in France, leaving behind his pregnant wife, Anne. But Donne refused to write a typical weepy farewell. Instead, he handed Anne a poem called A Valediction forbidding mourning, commanding her not to grieve. To pull this off, he relies on a literary device called a metaphysical conceit. This is an elaborate, highly intellectual metaphor that draws a parallel between two things that, on the surface, seem to have absolutely nothing in common. He decides to tackle the messy, intensely emotional pain of separation using the cold, precise laws of science, chemistry, and geometry. Donne opens his argument with an image of a virtuous man quietly passing away in his bed. He tells Anne that just as good men accept death peacefully, the two of them should separate without making a noise. To put their feelings on public display would cheapen what they have. He contrasts their relationship with what he calls sublunary lovers, people stuck on Earth whose bond relies entirely on physical touch and sight. When earthly lovers are separated, it fractures their entire world. Donne elevates their connection to the cosmos. He compares their love to the trepidation of the spheres, the massive, orderly rotation of the planets. While an earthquake causes panic because we feel it shaking the ground, the rotation of the planets is infinitely larger and more powerful, yet it happens silently, completely undetected by human senses. Because their bond operates on this invisible celestial scale, the simple act of moving to another country doesn't threaten the actual structure of their relationship. But this raises a mechanical question. If these two lovers really do share a single unified soul, what actually happens to that soul when one person boards a ship and sails away? Donne finds his answer in metallurgy. He argues that their shared soul won't snap under the tension of distance. Instead, it behaves like pure gold. Gold is an incredibly malleable element. A craftsman can hammer a single ounce of it into a sheet covering hundreds of square feet. It flattens out to an airy thinness, but the material itself never breaks. As Donne travels to France, the distance between him and Anne acts like the craftsman's hammer. It stretches their soul across the miles, bridging the geographic divide. Physical absence is no longer a loss, nor a fracture. It is simply a vast, invisible expansion of the love they already share. For his final and most famous argument, Donne leaves the realm of chemistry entirely and turns to mechanical geometry to prove his point. He suggests that if their souls must be considered two separate things, they are connected exactly like the twin legs of a draftsman's compass. Anne represents the central fixed foot of the tool. She must stay firmly planted in the middle of the page while her husband travels. As Donne becomes the roaming foot, traveling outward, Anne's fixed foot leans and hearkens after him. The two legs act in constant synchronized tension. The precision of the entire mechanism relies on a paradox. The person traveling can only move accurately because the person left behind stands perfectly, immovably steady. Moving the outer leg around that fixed point yields a specific mathematical result, a flawless circle. Anne's steadfast firmness makes his circle just. Holding the center guarantees his journey's arc will close, bringing him exactly back where he started. This highly intellectual approach to emotion defined a whole generation of 17th century writers, but its significance resonated long after. In 1921, the poet T.S. Eliot looked back at Donne's work to explain what made it so effective. Eliot praised Donne's unique capacity to amalgamate disparate experiences. Donne proved that using the cerebral laws of geometry and metallurgy to dissect a romance doesn't diminish the emotional truth of the relationship at all. It actually gives it a much sharper, clearer resonance. By filtering his heartbreak through the rigid logic of the physical sciences, Donne arrives at a comforting conclusion. When human connection is refined to its absolute purest state, distance is never a breach. It is simply an infinite expansion.